Hi everybody, Russ and My Hammers 11. Hope you are all safe. My new channel, please consider subscribing. Hitting the bell icon so you may advance and put new content on. As always, like, I think I love each other as much as I tuck and check about the description below. I'm getting it done in one breath. Excellent. New series. We always talk about the great players. You know, we do our appreciation nights. Go back and check. We've had this week rather, we did a Frank McAvenny appreciation night. Make sure you check that out. It's really, really cool, particularly for the first 45 minutes because Macca was on and some great stories and stuff like that. But it's all about, you know, the great players. But what about the not so great players we've had? And that's the idea of this sort of series. Hammers in hot water. I almost forgot what it's called there. Hammers in hot water. So we're looking at some of the players, some of the transfers, which maybe not were so great, and see where they are now, so to speak. So going through their career, and we've had a few. We've had a few bloody awful transfers, haven't we? Not recently, for our whole career, to be honest, West Ham career in terms of the history. But I think there's one which, for me, epitomises, you know, I would say head and shoulders above the rest, but he was quite small. So not, you know, actually, but figuratively. And that was the man himself, Savio Nsereko. So, let me take you guys back. It was January 2009. A time which was, you know, relatively exciting for West Ham fans, to be perfectly honest. We were still in the midst of being owned by the Icelandic consortium. You know, players being brought in, things like that. We were also a few months into the tenure of Mr. Gianfranco Zola. You know, the football we were playing was good, expansive, open football, as you'd imagine for Gianfranco. You know, very much a stark change from the Kerbishley era, which was just before. And so January 2009, that's the way we talk about it. 2009 was the first transfer window of the Franco Zola regime. So we were excited about what we would do. Very excited, in fact. So obviously the first thing did was sell Craig Bellamy. to Man City, who was our record signing when we signed him. So that was a great start. There's a bit of unrest because of that, because, you know, we're trying to build something and we sell arguably one of our best players. Despite this, you know, there was optimism. There was optimism that the money spent was going to be spent well and invested, and even, you know, basically a week later, we made a record signing, and that was Mr. Savio Nsereko. So barely a week had gone from Bellamy departing that Savio came in. And to be honest, I knew absolutely nothing about this kid. Nothing at all. And I think that was a similar sentiment for most of the fan base, to be honest. I mean, when you looked at his stats for Brescia, which we were in Serie B at the time, he'd played 23 games for them in total. He'd only scored 3 goals. But you saw this as a very much a potential. He was playing a tournament in the under 19s European Championships the season before. So, you know, there's a player here, should be. And so not only was our record signing, but we also gave him the number 10 shirt, which Bellamy had before he left. But not just Bellamy, but that 10 shirt was worn by, you know, Hurst, by Brookin, by Di Canio, you know, big names to fill. So, you know, we looked at it with anticipation. You know, that was a big call to give him the 10 shirt as well, and to have sold arguably your star player maybe at the time, Craig Bellamy, and bring this guy in. So we were expecting a lot. And so he made his he's made his debut 2 days after signing, straight in, bless him. He was off the bench, obviously, against Hull City. And to be honest, he didn't really set the world like that game. But look, I mean, yeah, to be fair, he looked good in the ball. You know, in the same way that you would imagine a Zola signing would look good on the ball. And so, you know, and similar to Zola, he was small. I mean, Zola never bullied his way through a opposition. He would obviously, you know, use skill. But as time went on, it was very clear that it wasn't going to work. his size was probably the biggest factor, I would say. I mean, you look at, he had in front of him, he had Carlton and David Di Michele, who Carlton Cole raves about and picks him in his Hammers 11. Make sure you check it out. And they were the preferred two up top, so he was never getting in. So most of his appearances did come from the bench. It just wasn't working. He was very lightweight, would get pushed off the ball quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, Zola was small as a player, but he was tough. And it was hard to be pushed off, low centre of gravity, but it didn't work with Savio. And after a less than impactful 6 months, we sold him. We sold him to Fiorentina for £3 million, which was obviously a big hit, on the initial investment of up to 9 million it was at the time. And that sort of highlighted the whole of the Icelandic ownership, in my opinion. Too many big money deals, which didn't end up to be profitable from a financial perspective or from a footballing perspective as well. Lots of players coming in who just didn't perform, who were on big wage bills and stuff like that. Freddie Lundberg, people like that. I mean, Savio only made 10 appearances for the club, hadn't scored, and all bar one were off the bench. Although, to be fair, despite the £3 million price tag, we did get Manuel da Costa coming the other way. And, in relatively terms compared to Savio, he had a good time at West Ham. And obviously, the players around the time, they knew this guy was going to flop. I mean, here's a quote from Jack Collison. I think it was one of the West Ham Way podcasts. And he said, Savio, that's an incredible story. He turned up, I think it was a record signing at the time. Poor kid. He was bloody useless and he struggled. And I think that sentiment was pretty much universal amongst the whole, whether it's the playing staff or whether it's the fan base themselves. There was suspicion about that whole transfer itself. I mean, it highlighted the previous relationships between West Ham's technical director at the time, Gianluca Nani, who basically had relationships with Brescia and Savio himself. He was actually involved in the transfer of Savio from Hertha Berlin to Brescia a while before, when he was like 16 or something like that, as well as being the son-in-law of the then president of Brescia, Luigi Curiano. So, is what it was what it was. I mean, there was an investigation, I think, when in 2012 about that, but nothing was made public about it. But yeah, it's join the dots up a little bit. So yes. So, however the circumstances, once Savio left the Premier League, went back to Italy, you would assume his footballing career would be reignited with that move, and then you would. But unfortunately, he failed to establish himself in the Fiorentina team, and 5 months later, they loaned him out to Bologna. And that was hardly productive. He only played 2 games in a 6-month loan spell before returning back to Fiorentina. And then for basically the remaining of his time on the books at Fiorentina, he went on loan to 5 different clubs. Started off in 1816 Munich, and then he went to the Bulgarian League with Chernomorets Burgas. Then he went back to Italy, but with Serie B, with Juve Stablia. Then to Romania, with FC Vaslui, and then back to Germany, with the 3rd Division Bundesliga team, Unterching, who he actually would eventually join on a permanent free transfer. But basically, all 5 loan spells, the most he played was in the Bulgarian league for Burgas. He played 2 games, more than 2 league games. Everywhere else he only played once, or no more than 2 league games. So wasn't great. His loan spells at 860 Munich and at Juve were cancelled because he went AWOL. And even after signing permanently for the German team, I won't pronounce the name, his contract was actually torn up a couple of months afterwards due to brief contract. And then the Savio story goes even further. It continues to spiral out of control. That's fair to say. In 2012, he was arrested by Thai authorities and spent a few weeks in prison, faking his own kidnapping in an attempt to ransom money from his own family, a reported €25,000. Oh dear. And then he goes back to football. So he's been released from the German team. He then goes on a roaming career around Europe. To be honest, firstly, you'll see the new logo, Victoria Koll in Germany, a regional side in Germany. Then to Israel for Hyper Iranu Aku, and then he found his way to Kazakhstan. He signed for the Kazakhs Premier League team, Atrau, Atyrau, and had a dream debut, scoring the winning goal in a 1-0 victory, which was eventually voted the goal of the season by their fans. More impressively, if that's the right word to say, it was his first goal since he scored for Brescia 5 years previously. Anyway, subsequently, as is true to form, he left that team in Kazakhstan after 10 appearances and didn't sign for another club for over a year. When he signed for Bulgarian Premier League side Bera Stara Zagora. You'll see the top right there where he was released after a couple of games. He then played for a number of small clubs, including Army München, semi-professional German team, scoring 7 goals in 7 games at the end of the 18-19 season. And then the following season scored 14 goals in 12 games. But then he went on to sign for BSC Sending, where he currently plays, and he's the second team manager. Savio is only 31 at the time of recording, so I have no doubt there'll be more twists and turns in the years to come. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Bit different, something a bit different. And so we're going to do lots of these ones throughout sort of the summer and beyond. If you've got any suggestions, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Wash those hands. Get those jab appointments when you get your appointments, your text through. Come in your irons, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Much love.